Good. Cheers.
Cheers.
Not coffee.
Yeah.
It's not coffee.
If they only knew what happened before the camera started.
Dude. What's going on, man?
Chilling, man. Just enjoying some coffee and.
So you had some issues this week, my friend.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to bring that up is I've been engaging in this super heated conversations about the profession of chiropractor. And there's people that discredit it, saying that it's all bullshit, that its origin is bullshit, or whatever it is. And I don't think that the profession is respected. Now, the problem with the professional chiropractic service is it's not a uniform path. If you want to be a doctor, here is the path. There's no other way. You could go to different schools. You can be an expert in a bunch of different areas. But for chiropractor, you can be a doctor that specializes in chiropractor services, a legitimate doctor, or you could take accreditation classes, and now you're licensed to be a chiropractor practitioner. But that does not make you a doctor, even though you can throw the doctor in it. You're not a doctor. You took the IT. What was it called? ITT. You took the ITT version of the chiropractic services. I pop people here in practice all day from shit that I've learned from my friends that are chiropractors. I'm not a chiropractor. Should your rib pop out and you're in pain? I can do that. But what's the first thing I tell them? Go to see a legitimate chiropractor. So you had some issue. What was it on Tuesday?
Yeah. So I think a couple of weeks back we were talking about it. We were stretching and stuff, but our lower backs were bothering us. And then it was my left hip that was really tight, kind of like my left piriformis side. So anyway, I felt pretty good. I woke up in the morning and I was on my day off, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the pup for a run. It took him for a 30-minute nice easy jog. Came back and I was like, man, my right side's bothering me now. It's kind of tight. So I went and I took him for a bath. Came back and was getting little Ruben some blueberries, and I dropped one on the floor. Went down to pick it up, and it just
done.
Yeah. The worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Now I've broken my radius and ulna at one time, and it came out of the skin, compound fracture. I was like 17 in high school. Less pain than this. I literally thought, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm ever going to walk again.
Comparable to childbirth. I like saying that because women that see this, women are like, fuck you. It's not.
You've never had childbirth.
Yeah, you never had It's comparable. It's like the flu.
I would say it's
like
worse than childbirth. Like childbirth.
It's our
in
podcast.
The
We can say whatever.
1920s.
Yeah.
And
like standing up childbirth, smoking.
And nobody thought I was pretty.
Yeah, yep, no.
Yeah. It was just like that, actually.
Just like that.
Couldn't explain it any better. So I was in there and I was screaming, and Ruben was like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Ah." Like if they would have came in and said, "Hey, you got some heroin here," I would have been like, "Is that gonna take a pain away? Because this is bad."
Yeah.
So I talked to you, and then you're like, "Hey man, go check out the chiropractor," and he did a pretty good job, man. I'm sore, but I think that's just because my body was so off and it was compensating so much, and then plus the work he's been putting in. So I've been there pretty much every day since.
So the post-treatment pain, it's kind of like the release, right? It's now you're just sore because your muscles have been locked up in this position for so long. Now that everything's back in place, it's just that release that a lot of times leads to like a headache.
Yeah.
And people, like the ignorant comments that I've heard regarding chiropractor service, why people don't like it, is they say, well, I'm more sore post-treatment. And I'm like, yeah, because you're back in line for the first time in God knows how long. You're going to have that soreness of your muscles and your bones being back in place. Yeah. But I know a bunch of chiropractors, and one of them, two that I highly recommend is the Ornelas brothers. I've been seeing them for years. Mm-hmm. Actually, the Ornelas brother, both William and Junior, I can't forget what year it was, but people thought I broke my neck. So this one chiropractor wouldn't touch me. He's like, and he's the one chiropractor we're talking about where the problem with chiropractor services, a lot of them fall into that habit of the 3-minute session where 3 minutes and you're done. That's all you get. They adjust, they pop your back, they adjust your neck, and then that's it. Move on. Where these guys are legitimately working with you, seeing, because it'll take some pops, it'll take some tugs before everything's back into place. So the Ornelas brothers being one of the first legitimate chiropractors. that I visited, but now because how busy we are with Academy and them being busy, we're going to this place called the Back Alley with Dr. Shipley. And Dr. Shipley, same thing, legitimate doctor, has been practicing for over 25 years, something like that. And I've kind of hinted, he's super busy, but he takes his time with you. But when you're popping and following his direction, it's not the best time for a conversation. But I kind of mentioned to him, I feel that he's educated enough where he would be the one, and well spoken enough rather, that he'll be the one to bring him for a podcast and like sit down and discuss the history of chiropractor service. But it's kind of like where it's kind of like where I am in jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm not here to convince anybody why jiu-jitsu is effective or not. If you don't think it is, fuck, dude, I don't have the time to convince you.
Yeah.
It's like we can roll and I can show you what jiu-jitsu feels like. But to sit there and trade counterpoints, I don't have time for that. I consider myself an educator in a certain way, but not to sit there and have like a long drawn out discussion. But I mentioned to Dr. Shipley as far as what his belief was when people doubted the chiropractor service, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been hearing that shit since the '80s. Yeah, that was it. He's done." So he's kind of like at that point where he's like, "Hey, man, if you're in pain like you were, at that point you'll try anything, right? Like you said, I'll fucking chase a dragon."
Yeah.
But you end up going over there, and I know both of us have had, in the past reservations about certain chiropractors, or the chiropractor service in general. But ever since I started going with those two guys, with Ornelas and Dr. Shipley, man, there's been an improvement in my movement and my health. Where I feel that the chiropractor service goes wrong is when it starts claiming to do more than what it does. Right? It's I don't know. I don't if it's a tendency for miseducated people to starting to exaggerate things when they start talking about, well, when you adjust your neck, your aura will flow better. Fuck, man. Wish you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I really wish you hadn't said that.
And you fucked it.
Yeah. You fucked it. Yeah. It's when they start making those claims, man. For me, it's kind of like where they kill it. Like, you can't make claims about, your aura or your life force and stuff like that when it talks about adjustment. You can talk about how great you're going to feel post adjustment.
Yeah, what it's physiologically going to do to your anatomy and your body, with your bone structure, your musculoskeletal structure. That's what it's going to do.
That's what it's going to do.
Yeah, that's proven.
Are you going to feel better? Yes, you're going to feel better. You're going to be in a better mood because of this adjustment. But it's like you're not going to be like, hey, Manny, can you come over and check out my aura?
Yeah,
I really
pop my neck. What does my aura look like?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, that's so out of realm. And so I think that because certain chiropractors, and I feel it's always more the chiropractor that it's the ITT version of chiropractor that will make those statements, right?
Yeah.
And people will fall prey to that. But people that are educated or people that are not into this, santeria and fucking killing the chicken, and stuff like that. As soon as you say stuff like that, man, they're done. They're done. And so I really wish there was a little bit more regulation as to. I don't know if it's regulation, but I wish legitimate chiropractors were a little bit more vocal about those bullshit chiropractors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? There might be like some associations we don't know about, or
right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I found he spent. I recommend anyone that has an issue, go check him out, just like you did to me. He spent a lot of time just kind of feeling my neck, and he was like, hey man, you're really, your left side, I can feel all the bones. On your right side, I don't feel anything. And I could feel him touching my bones in my neck, and nothing was on this side. And he was like, that's not good. That can throw everything off. So he worked with it. But even so, today when he was adjusting me, because it was 9 o'clock, my appointment was, and he was like, hey, how do you feel about chiropractic services? And it was hard to give him like a really good response, because he's like tweaking, like, oh, I'll pick this leg up, and I'm like, that's good, but I feel like it's to go from the level. I was at a 10 out of 10 pain, and when I work with patients and they hurt themselves or they say they're in pain, and say, give me a number out of 1 to 10, 10 being you're being mauled by a bear, and they're like, they got a little boo-boo on the knee, and they're like, it's a 10, and I'm like you're being mauled by a bear, and they're like,
yes.
Yeah. Well, now it gives me some perspective, because you could have probably looked at me and you'd been like, you picked up a blueberry and you're in a 10. Yeah, I was an absolute 10 pain. So to go from that 10 now to where, hey, I'm bending and picking things up without any pain, I think that's just a testament to his knowledge and how much time he put into stretching me, making sure I was relaxed. It's been good, man. So I think I'm at that age now, 34, where
I remember 34.
yeah,
It's cute.
was,
Yeah.
it, was it cute?
Yes.
Yeah, it's,
So
it's
long.
there where, and I was telling you this morning, I need to prioritize my training and the things I like to do, but the things I have to do. So the things I have to do is consistent chiropractic work, especially with being on the mats, my job, picking people up, sitting in ambulances for long in a weird position, or so that's, hey, go to the chiropractor first, do your hour of yoga first, stretch out, make sure you're good before I can roll, before I can lift, and that way it forces me to get those things done. Because if not, as I age, I'm just going to continue to get worse and worse, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a
There's-
downhill spiral from there. So
Yeah, there's definitely things that you have to do to keep up with the lifestyle that you choose, right? So if you want to be there for your kids, if you want to be there for your grandkids, if you want to be there for a life that it's worth living with activity in there, you can't have obesity in your life. You can't be overweight. You can't you can't enjoy pizza and soda every single day. So you have to start making those decisions. This is the life that we'll live. But for those of us that that are into jiu-jitsu and hiking and want to live lead an active lifestyle, you need that routine, like you said, where I got away from it a little bit post nationals last year, because I think I was pushing it with training for competition myself and training for leading the academy and helping others compete. But we had a phenomenal schedule that we started getting back into it, and we've been doing it for about a month now, and I love it. I'm never getting back away from that. But every Friday is we go to yoga in the morning. We do yoga from 8:30 to 9:30, and it's old people yoga. It's not power yoga. It's yoga to gain your movement back. That movement that you lose from all your weight, from pulling in, from pinching and all that. It's about lengthening, and I love that. Everything just pops back into. A lot of times, I get a pop almost like as if I'm getting an adjustment, and it's just from getting that movement back in. And then we'll go to Sharks with Gabe Cordova and his brother. Shout out to those guys, phenomenal. Then they'll put us through a workout that has a lot of the elements of a fight, and they'll put us through that, and then we'll throw the gi on, and then we'll do some rolls, some positional stuff, and then we're done. And that, man, that's the key to life right there. Like we talked about, I feel great whenever I have the discipline to do that every single Friday. Man, my week goes great.
Yeah.
Because I do it Friday, so it'll go Saturday through Thursday. I feel great. I feel happy that I did all these things. I know that one yoga session will carry. I'll stretch a little bit throughout the week, but I'm not tired. My shoulders are not hurting. My knees are not throbbing. But my biggest challenge is standing still, man. So when I go to yoga, every once in a while, I'm fighting it the whole way, because you and I were very much the same. We're like, we can't stand still. I can't stand still. And when I go to yoga, like a lot of times I won't share this with with the kids or Brenda, but I go there and I'm like, it's an hour session. I'm gonna do 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, I'm walking out. I don't give a fuck. So, but you get there and 20 minutes have gone by, and now you're starting to appreciate, number one, what you're doing. Number two, the fact that you don't have a certain movement that a 70-year-old lady is doing. You're like, why can she touch her toes, but I can't?
Yeah.
I can't walk out of this. I need that. There's something wrong with this.
Yeah.
And just alone in the month that I've been doing it, the first session alone was a huge wake up call, because when you stretch haphazardly like we do, we're just like, let's go. When you do that, you don't appreciate the movement that you're losing. But when you go to yoga, all of a sudden, there's certain positions where what I like about this yoga, it's progressive. And she'll never push a position on you. She'll say, okay, we're doing this position here. If you want to do a power style yoga, come off your knee, on your toes, do this, put your hands here. And when I was competing last year, I was doing those advanced positions, and I didn't get out of shape. I didn't have any injuries post tournaments or anything like that. But I did stop going yoga. I did stop going to Sharks, and we go to that one first session at LA Fitness, and I could tell that I couldn't hit those positions, that I was gonna get hurt, and that was a huge wake up call.
Yeah.
I had lost mobility. I had lost balance.
Yeah.
So you have to stay with that, man. You have to stick to. You have to pick the life you want to choose, and then choose habits that will allow you to live that life.
Yeah.
And
And everything has to come around it. I get into it sometimes with some guys who, love a certain type of workout style like CrossFit or whatever. And they want to know why I did it at once and why I don't do it anymore. Like for me, like you said, jiu-jitsu is where I want to devote my whole time to, on the mats. What do I need to do, and what are the things that need to be in place to get me to the mats and to have me be at my best of my abilities? Randomized workouts where you just pick 3 different exercises and say go for time isn't what's going to get it. I need to be doing pull-ups. I need to be doing grip strength. I need to be doing mobility. I need to be able to have enough mobility in my ankles to shoot a double leg. Period.
Right.
So I feel like as I get older and I get more mature and I'm around people and I see things, I'm able to say like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to focus more on mobility. You need to do this. You need to do that, and that will kind of hopefully fall into line. So, knock on wood. Hopefully, this is like a week thing, and I'll be good to slowly start getting into it. But day and night, man, from that dude.
Yeah,
Night,
absolutely,
so,
man. But as far as like doing those other workouts, like you said, I think so much of it's also like part of being young and not being able to turn down challenges.
Yeah.
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 I think there's guys that get so caught up in like, oh, I grew up in an abusive environment. People have told me I was never going to do anything in life, and now I prove them all wrong. That's great, but I think that mindset also leads to disaster, because you're so caught up with people doubting you that you're picking up on every single challenge. And I think that with the natural progression, or the healthy progression of that, should be, yeah, if unfortunately you grow up in an environment where people, your own family members, tell you'll never amount to anything, you'll never do anything in life, you don't have any talent, blah 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 blah, whatever it is, and you have that ability to develop that unbreakable will, like what we're talking about, and all of a sudden start proving all these people wrong. I think that as your successes grow, so should your confidence and your awareness that you don't have to fall prey to every single challenge that people throw at you. And I think that for me the moment came from knowing that I had a law enforcement career, and I was kind of like getting all these certifications and being part of like special units and stuff. But at the same time, there was jiu-jitsu competition, and then there was, you should do a boxing fight, you should do an MMA fight. And then I wanted to do it, so I did it. But then priorities, what do I want to be good at, and what do I want to be mediocre at? And I don't want to half-ass anything.
Yeah, I have no interest in being mediocre.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I walked away from. I love boxing, and I love to practice it, and I love to continue to learn in boxing and watch boxing, good fights. But for me to say that I want to train to fight in MMA or to fight in boxing, I think that with maturity, those were challenges that I said, nah, not for me.
Yeah.
I did it. I fought in the cage. I fought in the ring. It's not where my heart is at. It's not where my heart is at. So, but I think that you fall prey for that, sometimes. And a lot of times people continue to do those things, those like, well, people don't think I can do it, so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep doing it. And at one point, I think that the healthy progression is to be able to turn down, no, not interested.
Do you want to do it?
Do you want to do it?
If you want to do it, then do it. Who cares what people are going to think? Do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it because someone said they don't think you can do it. You know what I mean?
We all fall prey for that, though. Did you have something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there there was times where we'd go to a tournament and there'd be a dude that had way more fights. You know, it's kind of like jiu-jitsu and amateur boxing where you have, 0 to 5 fights, dude in your same weight class. He could be 24 and you're, 16, 17. But he had 0 to 5 fights, right? So then your coach makes a decision on whether you're going to fight that dude or not. Some of our coach was pretty prideful and he was pretty confident in what he showed us, and which is a testament to his training style and was a testament to the type of work I was putting in. So, there'd be times where he'd be like, hey, man, this dude's, 12-0, and he's been dropping everybody. You want to face him? And the first part is 12-0, and then everyone's looking at you, and then, just how you raise, you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. And then you get in there and you prove yourself, you do pretty well, or you win, or you pull something out. And, so that's happened a lot. There's been, some CrossFit competitions that necessarily I knew I wasn't going to do well in. But I did it because they're like, oh, you should do it. You should do it. All right, cool. I'll do it. You know what I mean? But there are some good things that came from it. You know what I mean? I think competition last year or the year before when I first started, you guys were like, hey, man, do it. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. I competed in boxing and football and stuff like that. But I think just you having the confidence in me on the mats gave me that confidence back. All right, let's go. So,
but there was an issue there, man, and I now want to mention the name of the coach, but there was an issue there with how one of your former boxing coach approached prepping the team.
Yeah.
Which I think that it involved his ego.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like I said, just the preparation.
So what would he say though? Can you say that or?
I mean, in a way, he pretty much said everyone has put a lot of time into you being here. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of early mornings, a lot of road work sessions. Like, you're here to win. And the pressure was high, and that's what we do. And he said, regardless of what happens, a lot of people have given up a lot of time for you to be here. Yeah. So prove it. And that was, being a young kid, it's like, man, I don't want to let everyone down.
But you told me that one time, like, it got to the point where he was like, don't embarrass me.
Yeah.
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 Fuck.
Yeah. So that was tough, man, because you don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. You don't want to, someone who you love and care for so much, you don't want to let them down. And
right.
And, am I still going to be able to come back after that? He's not saying that, but in your mind as a
when
fighter,
he says don't embarrass me, you're like, dude, if I embarrass him,
yeah,
if I do a performance that fits within that, fuck, I embarrassed him, do I come back?
Which is a huge spectrum, right? Like, a lot of people want to sit there and criticize a fighter. Man, he got knocked out. Did you see how much he got put to sleep? Man, from the time that bell rings, there's a plan, right? What happens in between there, who knows what's going to happen? It takes 1 inch left or right, and you're done, and you're asleep. It's not because, it could be because you didn't prepare, but, let's just say everyone prepared to the greatest of their potential. And those two guys go in there, and it's just that 1 inch. It's that one, lack of not hesitating, and that person's out. Does that mean that fighter's a bum? I would never say that. No, because that takes a lot of balls to get in there. Does that mean that he's an embarrassment to his camp? Absolutely not. He's not an embarrassment. That's just a fight game. I think Americans and even Mexicans have this theory about losing that I wish we kind of took the samurai and Japanese influence. Like, it's not necessarily about losing. It's how you lost the fight. Did you run the whole time? Did you stall? You know what I mean? Like, what was your etiquette? And were you honorable in that loss? Like, did you go out on your shield?
Honorable in victory, honorable in defeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go into a tournament and you're like, man, I felt good. I was doing good. And then next thing you know, this dude hit me with a technique I'd never seen before. And next thing you know, I was submitted. Mm-hmm. Does that mean you're not a great fighter? Absolutely not.
Performance can always be improved, man. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is that I had approach about competing a bunch of times in the past, and there was always that hesitation, and I couldn't figure out what it was, because the ability was there, the ability was there, the mindset was there for you, but it wasn't until we had the breaking moment where you brought up that old saying of your coach, where he was like, "Don't embarrass me," and I think that And I think it's unfortunate that in jiu-jitsu there is still a lot of that. There's still a lot of. I believe there needs to be pride in your team and who you represent. There's absolutely no. It's my guys are proud of the team that they represent. You know, Namio and Paragon, Arizona, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, this is my phrase. This is what I always tell them. Where's your patch? And they point. You know, the patch is on my back. Good. That means your team is behind you, supporting you. You know, the patch is not on top of your head weighing you down. You're not carrying the responsibility of the team on your head. It's behind you because that's who you're representing, and that's who's behind you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I've always explained it to my fighters, and I think it takes a huge load of their shoulders, understanding that win, lose, or draw. What I'm interested in is the performance, and a lot of times for a lot of guys. I don't even really care about their competition. You know, there's guys that are not competitors. They're not going to make a reputation out of entering tournaments and winning and medals and placing at this huge international tournaments. I'm interested about the life lesson and the process of what will happen to this person's character because of the competition. We have our tall, lanky friend, no names, but this person is huge, tall, muscular, fucking arms are like this. But his mindset, how he looks at himself, he's here, or he was, and he did one tournament and really doubted himself. He did a second tournament, and it was like night and day. Like this guy, who he was at the core had changed. And that's what I'm interested in. It's people always want to talk about like, oh, who's your death squad and who's in your, you know, who's your competition team and this guy. And it's like, yes, I get that. While it's important to win all those medals, which we have, and it's not to be having this conversation with them. I don't think I need to be having those conversations with those people from other teams. But to me, what's important is I want to get this one person competing because what will happen to them in the process. It's the climb. It's not always the medal. It's not always getting up here. It's what happens to the person of the core because of the climb that they have to make to get to the tournament. The training, the mental hurdles that you have to get over, the reinventing of yourself, where normally in life I stopped doing this because of challenge, because of doubt, because of discomfort, because maybe this is not for me. I'm not a fighter at the core, whatever it is. And then you get past that, and then all of a sudden there's a new sense of belief, and there's a new sense of inner strength. That's what I care about, man. That's what I care about in a lot of people. Because like I said, there's guys like Bronson. Bronson's a competitor, man. You know, that guy should be competing every weekend. But like I said, like our tall, skinny friend, I was more interested in him doing competitions because what will happen to him at the core, you know? So I feel that some coaches are just so caught up in just putting people out in tournaments, And I think that's something that's so embarrassing about that is we were at this last tournament and there's a person that we have friends in common. So this person comes up to me and says, do you think I should be doing this tournament? Now, this person won the tournament, but it was at the white belt level, which, you know, people could be nervous, whatever it is. But so that's kudos to this person for winning. That says a lot. But this person comes up to me and says, do you think I should be competing? And I said, well, how long have you been practicing? 2 weeks. I said, no, you shouldn't be competing. And this person's face just dropped. And I said, let me stop right there. You're here. There's no running away from this challenge. You will go on the mat and you will perform. You will do your best. If you were part of my team, I wouldn't let you compete. I would encourage. It's not I wouldn't let you. I wouldn't encourage you to compete. Does that make sense? But I feel that when you have a team that counts team points and brags about, oh, we came in this place or we came in this other place. What people don't understand is when you're in the business of counting points for team placing, you're throwing a bunch of people in there that shouldn't be in there. because even a third place gets you points towards that team place. And so you're having people compete with clear disregard for what's going to happen to them. You know, some person could shoot, you know, like our tall friend, he lost his first fight or in his first tournament. Kim comes back with the fucking heart of a champion, makes it to the finals. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's him. That's not everybody.
Yeah. And with cutting weight, you know, like that process you talk about with, you know, just going in there at a different weight class, dieting, you know, because I saw him putting a sweatsuit on with that grind and being here all the time. And just to hear him after,
It's like a different person.
Totally different person. And that's cool to see. You know what I mean? Just like that, we went down there and I was nervous, you know, like, hey, I show up and you're like, hey, have you gotten any sleep? No, I haven't slept at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but, you know, finished that dude and I don't know, what was it, like less than a minute?
Yeah.
And then, you know, did some shadow boxing in the ring. But I was nervous, man. But it was good. And it was that conversation and being comfortable. And I had some family from that used to fight roosters, and they would always say, you know, when I'd want to take the little roosters out and play with them, they would say, don't, the little ones aren't ready to fight yet. Like, you're going to break that one's spirit, you know. And even though they puffed out like they were ready, and, you know, they were walking around like with the big chest, they weren't ready. They weren't ready to see the big
Right.
rooster
They're
yet.
emulating. They're emulating what they're seeing in the old ones. Like with the little ones, our kids want to be like the big ones. So if you walk around with a big chest, they're gonna be like, I like that dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready. You know,
Yeah.
but you don't want to break them too soon because they get that one loss or that one whooping, and hey, they might not be
Recover.
the same after that. You
They
know,
might not recover, man.
Yeah.
That's so crazy, man. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of. Like I said, I think there needs to be some responsibility on the side of the coaches to not be so rushed for those placement, you know, for those team trophies. And for me, it's more about the individual, man. You know, we're not known for taking a huge competition team, and it's because of that. Like, you know, I'll tell a person, you're not ready to compete. You know, you're ready to compete. You're not ready to compete for a multitude of reasons. You're not ready. You know, we can keep working towards getting you there, but you know, you're not ready. Like I said, I'd rather have that small competition team. I just care about the individual too much, man.
Yeah.
You know, I care more about the individual than that trophy.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't want to come back with a bunch of third places. You know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, if knowing I couldn't look at myself in the mirror the next day knowing that I took somebody that wasn't ready. You know, so and that's my goal, man. That's my goal, and I'll continue to do that, man. That's my passion. My passion is coaching and developing people. So
Yeah.
through jiu-jitsu, that's possible, man. So.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is how much you're watching us. You know, because we're so close and because me and you talk so much, we may not have the same relationship, or someone at my level might not have the same relationship as you, but you know, you're watching people and you know when someone's ready. You know, they might feel like they're ready, but they're not, or they might not feel like they're ready and they're ready to go. You know what I mean? Like you said, let's go, man. You're ready to go. So, you know, for people to know how much you are watching them and gauging them and taking care of them, that's a pretty good feeling, especially in a sport like this. So.
Yeah. However, there is that one brand of fighter that won't shut the fuck up, dude. You and I know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
This guy, you can be in an 8-hour drive, and for 8 hours, this guy will tell you how great he is. Let me tell you everything that I've done in my life, how great I am. And those are so annoying. Those are so annoying because it's a guy that won't shut the fuck up. He's always talking. I do this and I do that. It's like, okay, dude, let's talk about something else.
It's that little rooster. It's that little dog.
Just
you know.
burp, burp, burp,
Yep.
burp. Yeah.
That's it, man. That's just you know, that's I'm trying to fit in and get some street cred around here type thing. Not necessarily.
It's an insecurity that leads that person.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely what it is. It's insecurity, you know.
Okay.
I was always told by my pops, real hard dudes walk in silence. That's true. You don't hear about those real hard. They don't necessarily need to talk about it, right? Like they prove it,
Right.
in whatever realm they're in.
The people that know how to be tough, dude. I saw my dad get in one fight and one fight only, and And I think I was like 12, 13 years old. So it was around the time where you start thinking that you can take on your dad, right?
Yeah.
So my dad and I, we had a very broken relationship, and we kind of had started looking at each other like fucking sideways, you know. And I started wrestling, so I'm
You
wrestling.
get to that age where your balls drop and you're like, hey, I want to see,
yeah,
I
I
want
was
to see
like,
what you're
they,
about.
They're dropped.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start.
Oh, look at those.
I'm gonna start bumping this man, you know. So we just had a bad relationship, man, and for me to be fighting men in wrestling, kind of started like maybe I can take this old dude, man, you know.
Yeah.
But one day, my dad owned a pharmacy in Hermosillo, and he was the entire plaza where he had the pharmacy was pretty much getting bullied by the security guard. The security guard was getting paid by the landlord a certain amount to guard it. Mm-hmm. This guy wanted to renegotiate his contract, so he was going to each business owner saying, you want me to pay special attention to your plot, to your business, it's going to cost you this much more. That guy is paying, so guess whose business I'm going to hang out in front of more, you know? Mm-hmm. Maybe I won't pay too much attention to you if you're not paying this. So he comes over, and we're still open for business. There just happened to be nobody in the pharmacy at that time. And this guy says within so many words, well, if you don't pay me, we'll see what happens. And my dad goes, are you threatening me? You know? And I was like, what? I was like, holy shit, where's this going? Yeah, I was like, where's this gonna go? I had thought of my dad as a coward because he wasn't taking care of the family. And then also to see him like take off his glass and puff up, I was like, where'd this come from? You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, are you threatening me? And the security guard is kind of like, he just kind of like shrugs. He's like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. They exchange a few words, and this is the fucking Manuel Flores Sr. phrase that you've heard me tell the story before, where my dad goes, all right, he goes, when I fight men, I punch him. Now, this is Mexico fucking early 1990s, man. So this phrase might offend, your dad fought women. No, fucking shut up. Just listen. But my dad told this dude, he goes, when I fight men, I punch him. When I fight women, I slap him. You, I'm going to slap. And they went outside, and I was like, is he really going to slap? Are they fighting? What the this is fucking crazy to me. So I peeked outside, dude, and the dude fucking got his fighting stances. My dad put his glasses down, and he opened up his hands. And he slapped him.
You can't come back from a slap.
You can't come back from a slap.
Your life is Christmas.
Dude, but it slapped him to the body. You know? I mean, he like worked the body, because my dad was a boxer.
Yeah.
My dad was a boxer, but his vision went bad. So he had to quit boxing. And he ended up going to law school. And he moved like I've never seen this man be athletic in my entire life, dude. And fucking my dad bobbed and weaved and slipped and slapped to the body, slapped here, slapped to the face, another slap to the other side, another slap to the body. And the dude is down. I don't think he even landed a punch on my dad. And people started screaming, and they're like, whoa, stop. You know, and my dad was
World
like,
star.
Cool. World star, you know. And people break it up, and my dad is like, I'm done. And he's like, help him up. And the dude is out, dude, out. And the drive home, dude, I was honestly afraid of my dad. Like, I remember, it dawned on me on the drive home that I was pressed up against the door on the drive back, because I was like, this fucking guy's an animal. I just saw him knock out another dude with slaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's so fucking boxing, I don't even know what the point of that story was, dude, but fucking there's something about boxing, the way what it does, what it creates to people, where like once you know how to brawl, man, it's always in you, the quiet one.
Yeah.
There you go. We're talking about the quiet ones. But that was quiet, overly quiet. But he was that, he told his dude, it's like, I'm going to slap, and the dude is like yelling and fucking, making a scene. And my dad is like, shh, it's like, if we're going to fight, let's fight.
Yeah.
It was fucking crazy. I've never seen that before. But the sport of boxing, man, we were talking about this. Is it in peril? Because we were talking about what they're doing to the Olympics, all right? We're talking about what they're doing with boxing with kids and removing the headgear.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is, man. I mean, it could just be that I'm not walking around with a competition team, going to Golden Gloves or Blue and Gold or De La Hoya's or Silver Gloves. So I'm not really involved in that arena. But from what I see, at one time you could walk around town in carnicerias or just in stores and see, a boxing flyer. Hey, there's a tournament at El Casino Ballroom this weekend, or there's a tournament at, rodeo grounds this weekend. I just don't see it anymore, man. And you still have some of those big tournaments, Gene Lewis and Phoenix, that are going on. I think what's happened, at least what I'm assuming or guessing, is several things. One is economy, so lack of funding for these programs because they're usually volunteered based.
The coaches are volunteer based.
Yeah. I mean, it's very rare that you get a coach that's making. You got a guy that's working a 8-hour day as a construction worker and then goes and coaches kids. Or they used to have the police athletic league where you were having cops go down there and coach kids, and that got taken away just because of funding. So I think funding is one thing, and the next thing is the growth of UFC, the growth of mixed martial arts. What was once boxing being popular, now you got jiu-jitsu tournaments popping up around town in Tucson and kids hearing about it, and UFC's being broadcast on TV that everybody can watch, right? It's not just, hey, the big fights are on HBO. And finally, boxing got hip to the game with what UFC was doing, so now you're going to see some fights on CBS and non-cable TV. But I think they're a little too late with that.
They lost the momentum because boxing owned fighting at one point. Like, you want to be a fighter, you understood that you had to be boxing. But now I think that what the UFC proved, especially with the early UFC, is that some people are starting to discover now. It was the, what are you talking about as far as being a full complete fighter? You're talking about a mixed martial arts discipline, something that involves kicks and punches and elbows and takedowns and submissions and grappling. But boxing, there's something that appeals to me in boxing, and I think that what appeals to the masses is there is almost like a code of honor, because there's so many rules specific to the punches.
Queens of Marksbury rules. It's a gentleman's sport.
It's a gentleman's sport. It's a gentleman's sport, and that's one thing that I miss about seeing the old boxing fights. It's that you would see. Obviously, the times change, man. So dress changes with the times, but back then it was a gentleman's sport, even for the fan, even for the people attending. You would see people with their best outfits attending the fights. You don't necessarily see that anymore. Obviously it's being silly. Like, you wouldn't wear a suit to a boxing fight now, but it's I think that we haven't promoted boxing for what it is. It's like, I think boxing is trying to compete too much with UFC, and it's starting to lose its identity. Where it's the like you said, man, it's those rules of we're gonna involve beautiful movement on the hip. When you see a beautiful boxer, man, when you see a boxer with that technique, it's like, man, I could watch those fights every day. The Muhammad Ali, the Fraziers,
Alexis Arguello, Pryor's, the man. I mean, even
Tommy Hearns,
Tommy Hearns. Yeah, those guys were
Oscar De La Hoya. Even Oscar De La Hoya,
who was once from East LA. Don't get it twisted. He was once from East LA.
Before the leg stock incident.
Let's East LA. I just want to put that out there.
Julio Cesar Chavez, where and now you have guys, I think his name is Wilder.
Deontay Wilder.
Deontay Wilder, something like that.
Yeah.
That he jumps into the punch. There is no form into his fighting. He just literally, I think I've seen him trip and fall, throwing a punch.
Yeah.
And I was watching a video where he ran into what's the name of the British fighter? Lennox Lewis. And they're in a parking lot, and Lennox Lewis is teaching him how to jab. And Lennox Lewis is like, you can hear the audio. He goes, "You jump in when you jab, you're gonna get knocked out." He's telling him that, and he's like, "Look," and he's like jabbing, and Wilder is like, "Huh," you know.
Yeah, because he's gotten by on his athletic experience and the
Just
lack
the
of heavyweight
power.
competition in his
Right.
right now. You know what I mean?
Right. You don't see that so much in the lower weights. The lower weights are super technical and super fast.
Yeah, you're getting those guys from Mexico that have 50 fights prior to even coming up into the States. So those guys have, been seasoned pretty well. And the last thing is that you got countries like Russia, you got countries like Cuba, you got these third world countries that are raising these fighters from the time that they can stand and walk to be fighters. You're going to be a wrestler. You're going to be an Olympic weightlifter. You're going to be a sprinter. You're going to do this. You're going to be a boxer.
That's what happened to Joel Romero and his brother. He has a brother that now a lot of things have been said about him, but he has a brother. And Joel Romero was talking about how in Cuba, they looked at him at 8 years old and they were like, "You're going to be a wrestler." And they would have like these workouts where there's representatives from every sport going, "That kid's going to be a lifter." And his brother ended up being a boxer, But they're state-run sports, so you don't make money. Neither you as a fighter, neither your coach, because it's being run by the state. But yeah, I think we're at a disadvantage where a lot of our kids, especially in some places like Arizona, like you don't necessarily have boxing gyms, pure boxing gyms.
Yeah.
We have purely dedicated gyms to MMA, like Apex, which I think was the first legitimate MMA boxing, or not, the first legitimate MMA gym in Tucson. Other academies were doing jiu-jitsu and train MMA on the side, but these guys were just truly doing MMA. They didn't give a shit about like the gi or other stuff. They just wanted to fight in the cage.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that's where the identity of boxing is being lost. I think boxing is getting caught up in a fight that shouldn't be fighting. Like they should not be competing with the UFC, with mixed martial arts. It's boxing. It's boxing. Retain your identity, clean up your sport. And when I say clean up your sport, is make it a little more unified. I think what's also bringing kids to MMA is that you have kids that could end up making it to not the big leagues, but there's different versions of the big leagues with 7 fights on.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like 5 amateur fights and 5 MMA fights, and you're on. You're on the big leagues.
Yep.
And you hear cases of like Triple G, who had 455 amateur fights before turning pro.
Yeah. That's a high number, but still, 120 fights as an amateur.
That's insane.
Where these guys are getting, hey, top rank. Bob Arum wants to talk to me. De La Hoya wants to talk to me. Those kids are 120 and 2, 120 and 3. You know what I mean? So they've put in the work from they're so young to be able to get to that point where they can start making a living. And that's another thing. Why am I going to go fight in the Olympics if I'm gonna get this, 40, 50K signing bonus, and then I'm gonna start making 25K off the bat for a 4-rounder? You know what I mean? So their motivation to be there isn't there. Where in those third world countries, it's forced. You're doing it from your 8, man. I don't know what you're gonna. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also has to do with the way other sports in the Olympics are doing it. Why can we have professional boxers fight in the Olympics? Basketball does it. Why can we have professional boxers fight in the Olympics? So being able to make a living and still be able to represent your country, instead of a lot of these kids do, especially in America, a lot of these kids go to the Olympics trials just because they know they're going to get some exposure, but that doesn't necessarily turn into a professional career.
Yeah.
But I think the way the Olympics, and especially like this Olympics, they're being talked about because it used to be profitable for a country to host the Olympics, and now it's not. And not only is it not, but they tax the athlete themselves for the medal. So if you're bringing a gold medal, and I think that happened with, I think it was Michael Phelps that was talking about,
Phelps.
Michael Phelps, right? That was talking about like all the gold medals that he had brought from Olympics competitions, where he had to pay to be able to bring his medal into the country. What does that mean? Like, why is America not
It's a form of currency. Is the only thing I can assume that what it is, right? Because
right?
it's gold and it could be a
Right,
form of currency.
exactly.
So you don't have to
But
pay
why?
on it.
Yeah, but if you're representing America and we're cheering for you, and there's a pride of the nation, like, oh, you won this. Why isn't
Why are we taxing
there?
you?
Why are we taxing? Why are we
Yeah.
not covering that up for you? So yeah, there's the formula for the Olympics. It's really broken right now, and I think a lot of nations don't want to host the Olympics anymore.
Yeah.
I think that I was reading the number of the countries that even back in the 80s were putting in for to host the Olympics, and it was like in the 200s or something like that. And I think we're down to like 75 countries worldwide are putting in to host the Olympics.
Yeah. I think politics has a lot to do with that.
Well, they
too,
take a
where-
huge profit. So back in the day, there was a percentage that the Olympic Commission would take, and I think they got greedy with television deals and advertisement and merchandise. That I think they take around the 70% of the profit that the nation makes. So if I think, for example, like the latest one is North Korea is hosting the Winter Olympics, they're gonna take 75% of what North Korea makes. You know,
That's a huge cut.
that's a huge cut. So I mean, and it happened to Brazil. Look at the stations that they built. Look at the house, and the stations, the pools, and this, that, with the hopes that those places would get used post Olympics, and they're in ruins. They're actually being broken into. Seats are being stolen. They're being vandalized. It's just sits there. So I think other nations are starting to look at what the Olympics do for their nation, and they're just not interested.
Yeah.
Why would I spend billions of dollars building stadiums, building this, building that, knowing that number one, I'm not gonna keep the return, and number two, depending what nation it is, these stadiums are not going to be used post the event. So they got to fix that, man. They got to fix that, and they got to make it about the athletes. I think, especially in boxing, we have to look at a way of allowing our kids to turn pro, start making some money, and being able to represent the nation.
Yeah.
Other countries are doing it. Other sports are doing it. Why are we not?
Yeah, and I think the Olympic Committee needs to relook at the way they judge amateur boxing, because they say they do, but when you're actually watching like the punch count in amateur boxing, they're not counting body punches. So you get a really good kid who's not going to necessarily be a great amateur boxer because they're not counting those body punches, and they're great in the pros, right? Because they're working all sides of the body. They have head movement. It's not this pitter patter, and I think that's why you got those stands and you got those Europe countries doing really well in it, because they have that straight up form where they're just tap 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 move, tap 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 move, tap 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 move, and you have some of these other kids here who are sitting down watching these pro fighters. You know, they're sitting down on their punches, they're hitting to the body, they're breaking their opponent down. But you can't. You have to change your game when you go to the Olympics to fight, and that's I
Yeah,
think
and then
it's
you
a
still
tough
have
change.
corruption. You
Yeah.
still have the corruption. I think that one of the greatest robberies in Olympic boxing was Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
where if you watch the video, you guys can look it up on YouTube. I think it's titled like Roy Jones Jr. gets robbed in the Olympics, and he is destroying this dude. And the decision comes. There's a point where they're throwing punches, and Roy Jones Jr. is tagging this dude, and the guy throws one punch, rocks Jr. back, and he gets a standing 8. And then they go to the scores and they give it to the other guy, and it's one of the greatest robberies. So I think things like that. I mean, it's just it discredits the sport, and I think it takes the passion out of it. And I think certain kids are just going, well, fuck, man. With 10 fights, I could be in a middle level MMA promotion. Why would I spend 200 fights in boxing, taking damage, still working a day job?
Yeah.
You know.
Or I'm watching, LeBron James and playing basketball, or I'm watching, so and so playing football, or just the things that are broadcasted more percentage of times that our kids are watching on TV. than boxing and those other things. How often do you see collegiate wrestling? You see collegiate basketball, the Final Four, right? When was the last time they posted?
Choose the finals, choose like the big game.
Yeah,
that's the only thing, but you're not
on
going to see
Channel
it.
11, on Channel 9, somewhere where kids who don't have money to have cable, or even kids who do have money, they don't post it on ESPN. Isn't it like a Fox Sports 2, like some special sports package you have to watch it?
Something like that, yeah.
That's one of those things. So like, these kids aren't seeing the top athletes of the sports they want to inspire to be in. And I think that was huge for us. You go back to saying, hey, I loved wrestling. You had your favorite professional wrestler. I had my favorite pro athletes that I wanted to emulate and be like. So, you know what I mean? I grew up watching Chavez, and that's what I wanted to be like. Mike Tyson, that's what I wanted to be like. So, and, of course, who are they watching now? You know what I mean? They're watching the Mayweather, who's about money.
And the thing, they have to have that personality, man. There's just, I think the top fighters in the world right now, unfortunately for me, I can't watch them because they're just copying the Mayweather formula of just being obnoxious and just annoying, and just showboating or just being disrespectful to the fighter, whatever it is. And I can't watch that, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Muhammad Ali kind of came out with it, but the thing about him was he put on a fight. You know what I mean? I don't like the type of person Mayweather is, and maybe that's not the type of person he is off.
But he doesn't put on a show fight.
No, he doesn't put on a show and a fight. He's great for the person who knows the art of boxing, which is defense. And the only thing I do respect about him is he was able to stay motivated when he was making so much money and still train. Like that's hats off to that dude, because making that much money, it'd be hard enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to pick up my own room. Like, I'm paying someone to pick up my room. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I don't want to. I love seeing a guy like Canelo who doesn't need to talk much stuff, like Triple G, who doesn't need to demean just be like, hey, I'm there. Right? Mm-hmm. Or Miguel Cotto was great at it. That dude was a gentleman. And he got in there and he was a beast, win or lose. Lomachenko's the same way. Like, these guys who don't have much to say, I enjoy watching. But you have these other new kids who are coming up trying to...
Bronin, that's one of them. Have you watched it?
Oh, yeah, I think he's in prison now or something.
Is he?
Yeah, last time I saw, he got charged with, like, assault and battery on a woman for, like, the 5th time or something. So we'll see if they keep him in. But, yeah, guys like that are trying... with Al Heyman, that are trying to take this blueprint of what Mayweather did, and you're not Muhammad Ali, man. You're not Floyd Mayweather.
You still got to put the fight behind.
Just shut your mouth and fight. Shut your mouth and show me that you are exciting. Mike Tyson said like 5 words, like, I was really excited today.
Right.
I just wanted to go out there and kill him.
Dude, but Tyson had some fucking epic meltdowns when he's talking about like eating somebody's children.
Well, yeah, post prison.
Yeah.
Let's
But he was prison will do some
and
shit.
Post what's his name did to him.
What was his name? The promoter?
Yeah. It's the dude that looked like he stuck his finger in an electric socket.
Yeah. Don King.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I needed to say. Don King.
Yeah.
Post what that happened with him. Post him losing Custamato in his life, who was huge. Post him, Teddy
being
Atlas.
surrounded by a bunch of people.
Yeah, Teddy Atlas left him. Cosmato died. Teddy Atlas left him. He was just kind of like, hey.
He was just surrounded by a bunch of people that... I remember there was one fight in particular where he started taking punishment, and they had gone into the fight without a bucket and without the tools.
Yeah.
And he starts yelling at his corner, like, working my eye. And they were like, it was bad, man. It was watching the castle crumble.
Yep.
They literally showed up unprepared.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to corner him. They didn't man. The 1-on-1 of boxing, you show up with the bucket and the tools and pressing the eye and all that. But they showed up with none of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, dude. Mike Tyson lost his mind a couple of times. And
but I get Mike.
I get Mike. You're not, because
we get Mike.
We get Mike, especially where he came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially where he came from. But he, but I like Mike, and it kind of leads into this thing where I've been saying and listened to lately, where you have no fault. It's not your fault where you came from, but it's your responsibility where you land. So we've mentioned all these people. We talked about all these people that came from horrible upbringings. And there's some people that'll sit there and just dwell on that. Well, look at me. I came from a horrible background. I didn't have a father figure, blah, blah, blah. Of course I was going to turn out like this. But then, what about responsibility? What a responsibility. And I think we're breeding that culture of you came from a horrible background, you had no formal education, you come from an abusive home, whatever it is. Of course, you're not gonna. You have some sort of disability. You know, you have PTSD from your dad hitting you, or whatever it is, or you're unable to sustain a job, or you never received education. You didn't grow up in a stable home. You know, where in that equation does responsibility come in? And I think that's something that we're missing, and that by today's standards in society would be like, you're being aggressive, bro. You know,
Yeah.
where no, it's not your fault. You come from a negative background, not your fault, dude. And I my heart hurts for people, because I know those people, man. I know people like that come from those super negative, hurtful backgrounds. But where is your responsibility to take that and say, I'm not going to end up like that? You know, you come from a abusive home. Okay, it's your responsibility to create a home where love is the constant and not the hurt.
Yeah.
Or your daddy hit you growing up. What does that mean? Does that give you permission to fucking beat up your kid with a belt because they're late, or because of this, because of that? No, it's you have that responsibility to turn into a better human being, and we're missing out on that. I think that we're not calling people out enough on that. Is like, dude, I'm not diminishing the bad experience, but here is the next part of your equation: responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, and that frustrates me. That frustrates me when we're not holding people accountable for changing their own life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there are role models that you and I have had the luck and the blessing to have those role models in our lives. But truly, role models only appear when you're ready to change. You know,
Yeah.
if you're just a bummed out kid with a bad attitude, a role model, a person that is a role model, is not going to spend any time in you
Yeah.
whatsoever. Why?
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to show the want to change.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be in that position to where you want to change. And maybe the question is, it's not necessarily that we're not holding people accountable. I think for us, we only can control the people that we touch. You know what I mean? So we can hold someone accountable, but if someone 3 doors down, that's kind of like, it's tough to change them. But we have these little guys coming through. We have your boys. We have, my boy, where I expect if they're not doing something that they're supposed to do, that you as his coach is going to say, hey, this, no, push-up position or burpees because you weren't paying attention. They need that direct consequence, because a kid that doesn't fear consequences for his actions or doesn't understand it is doomed, right? Like, oh yeah, I could commit that crime. What's going to happen to me? Eventually it's going to be prison. You might sneak through the juvenile court system, but eventually you're going to turn 18 and they don't give a shit about you. So it's working with those kids, it's coaching them, and a lot of parents are like, oh, you're rough on my kid, or oh, was that too much? Your kid didn't show up for practice for a week. I'm not like, how many new things we covered during practice? I'm not going to do it. You could hate me, but I'm not going to put him in a situation where now he can fail, or I'm not going to give him a false sense of, hey, I can show up and I can still do the things I want to do. I'm just not going to do it. There's something in my character that's going to stand for it, and it's going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm sure that you do the same here with coaching these kids on the mats. Like, you're not going to listen. You're not going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we can show. Yeah, and we can show the discipline here, but I think the equation is what happens at home.
Yeah, and that's the equation for every.
That's the equation at home, dude. But it was funny, man, because I was actually telling a story. I don't think I've ever told this story, but I actually took a phone call. This is probably about a year ago, and it was this lady that you could just hear the chaos in her mind through her voice. And she calls me and she's like, hey, you do jiu-jitsu? I was like, yeah. And she starts telling me, she's like, my son got arrested and he's looking at prison, and I need a program that shows him respect and stuff and how to be a good person, and he's got a court date coming up. Do you have a program like that? I said, I have a jiu-jitsu program. and through that program, he'll be surrounded by amazing, positive people that will offer them a different outlook in life. That you can have somebody that when they take the reins of their own life and steer it in a positive direction, positive things will happen. But like he has a court coming up, and he's looking at prison, and can you tell him to not? And I was like, ma'am, we do jujitsu. There are lessons within jujitsu. But I think what you're asking me to do is, number one, I think you're asking me to parent your kid, which I'm not. Yeah. Number two, you're asking me to not know, I don't know your kid. And then it sounds like we're starting here and heading towards the direction of, I show up at your court date, your son's court date, and I'm like, he's great now. He's training jujitsu.
Oh, hey, Mr. Flores, since you're taking care of him, he does. You know what? Let's just scratch the armed robbery.
Yeah, charges drop. Oh. And that's kind of where this was heading. So I tell the lady, I'm like, I don't think you understand what you're asking. I don't think you understand my answer.
Yeah.
And she's like, aren't you a law enforcement? And I said, yeah. What I'm not is your son's parent. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, and I don't blame her for doing that, because working as a substance abuse counselor with at-risk youth for 7 years, and then the time as I worked in probation, that's exactly what would happen. It would be like, kid's about to face the books, and someone shows up and we're like, oh yeah, he's been doing great. We pet horses. I'm not trying to discount that. Horse petting is not therapeutic for some people.
I've pet some horses and he hasn't done shit in my life.
I mean, okay. I like horses, but I'm not saying it's not therapeutic. What I'm saying is people get hip to the game and they start seeing, hey, if
I can get this guy,
if I can get this counselor, if I can get this, this respected community person to come in and vouch for my kid, this might be the thing that gets the kid off the hook. And that wasn't the first time that was done throughout that kid's life.
I wasn't the only phone call.
No, that was done from kinder all the way up until he was 18 in the 7th grade. Like that shit was done a lot, and that's a system that we allowed to happen. So I don't blame her for doing it, but
but it's in the parenting, man. So like we were talking about the amount of contact that we have with kids, right? And it's like I'll get a kid an hour a day, 3 days out of the week. So I get to spend 3 hours with this kid and teach him work ethic and courage and values of combat sport, and to not cry over some stupid things, he landed on my toe. Okay, great. Suck it up, dude. Yeah. Little things like that, or like how to care for others. That's another thing. Like for example, like we were doing this drill this week, and I had a kid that because he wasn't paying attention, he ended up hurting this kid, and I stopped the entire class, man, and I was like, this will not happen. You will not hurt a kid just because you choose not to pay attention, But then what atmosphere, and the parents are super grateful every time. They're like, thank you for what you're doing with my kid, Yeah. But then the kid goes off on his day off, or he'll disappear for a week and he comes back. We're back at square one. We're back at square one. It's important that if you want your kid to be something in life, it's important that you as a parent reflect that at home. When I was a young kid, I'm talking to like 15, 16, I had a really good friend of mine, dude, and we were really good friends, and we actually looked a lot alike. And this dude was a phenomenal athlete, man. Whatever this kid wanted to do, he did. Like you put a basketball in his hand, he would score 30 points. He'd never play football. You gave him a football, he'd be like, so how do I do this? Oh, you just throw it down the field like this, poof, 60 yards down. Man, where's this talent coming from? But he started slipping in life. He started going down a different path, and the mom was a sweet lady, but the dad sold drugs. And I think at least this was something that happened in my life. I think that at least for my group of friends, I think that part of growing up is you have kind of like a spiritual crisis all of a sudden where, life's starting to become hard. What is your What is your belief system? And for my group of friends was we started trying to understand the religion that we all grew up with, which was being Hispanics, being Mexicans, is Catholicism, right, and Christianity. So we started getting involved with like youth groups and stuff, and as attendees, we did a couple of retreats, and then we would be part of a youth group, once a week, go over there and stuff. And one day, my buddy had a complete meltdown. It was just me and him in the car, and because me and him back then we would play a lot of basketball, so we had a meltdown. And his meltdown was this: he goes, "How can your God tell me that my dad is evil because he's a drug dealer, when this man has shown me nothing but love in my life?" You know what I mean? So he smokes crack now, and his life is in shambles, and it was unfortunate because I have a lot of positivity in my life. I have a beautiful home, beautiful family, beautiful friends, beautiful academies, and this guy reappeared in my life maybe about 4 years ago, and I couldn't let him back in my life, and like it was a hard decision for me, man, and it hurt me because this was a really good friend growing up, but who he is as a grown-ass man now, and who I am as a grown man now, were two completely different things. Our worlds cannot coexist, man.
Yeah.
So I had to shut him out, man, and he came to the academy, and he was like looking around, but I could see, like, being in law enforcement, I could see like all the signs and symptoms of like, you're smoking crack.
Yeah.
And he had beautiful kids that were built like him. Like I was like, like Cuba, man. I'm looking at this kid, so I'm like, you're gonna be a wrestler, you're gonna be a bodybuilder, man. Send me these two kids, man. They're gonna be tremendous. But it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. So the point of this is, he ended up reflecting what's at home, even though we had positivity around us. So not to that extent, but you and I as a coach, we get these kids and we're trying to change the way we look at life, and the parents bring them and they were like, I want you to teach my son to be respectful. No, you need to teach your son how to be respectful. You have just put him in a setting where there are now consequences when he's not respectful, whether it be burpees, whether it be this, whether it be that. Sometimes the kid needs an ass beating. So sometimes we'll put him with a kid that we know is going to set him back right, So all of a sudden the parents put him in this world of consequences, but, it's don't be afraid to be a parent.
Yeah.
Yep. The parents, dude, it drives me crazy when I hear a parent go, if you don't start behaving, I'm not going to talk to you. What? What did you say?
He's 6.
He's 6. Yeah. Right? Yeah, man. He is 6.
He's 6 years old.
And I'm not telling you like corporal punishment, but be stern. Have consequences for the kid. You not talking to the kid, it's not it. And parenting is difficult, man, because every kid is different. Like, I'll tell a story about Joshua. When he was growing up, there was one Christmas time where he royally fucked up, dude. And I can't even remember what he did, but he did something stupid. And I'm talking about like he was like 7 or 8, you know? But he did something very, very wrong. And I was like, I'm taking all your gifts away. Do you think you give a fuck? Meh. So 3 years later, dude, I forgot about those gifts. I found them in the garage, in the bag. And I was like, oh, hey, cool. I don't have to pay, I don't have to buy this many gifts.
Hey,
Christmas. Dude, so, he didn't care about material stuff.
Yeah.
And it actually ended up being like a stern talk.
Yeah.
Come to Jesus, as they say.
Yeah.
That got his attention.
Yeah.
But you have to see what clicks with your son. And like, like this one parent that was like, if you don't behave, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. The kid was like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it was follow through on your end. Like
Right.
you found those gifts 3 years later, right? But what if you would have said, I'm going to take these away.
5 minutes later, you're
And
like,
then-
I can't do it.
Yeah, here you go, Merry Christmas. And then he's like, oh, okay. Like all it is just pattern recognition. When I do this,
This happens.
he's going to do this. And then, yeah, he might be mad for a little bit. But then I'm gonna get these gifts back, right? Like it took that situation for him to be like, all right, when my dad gets that mad, I don't want him to be that to that point. He is gonna hold to his truth, you know, on what he's gonna do, and so he had consequences for his actions. So, I mean, in that end, you don't expect your boys to be something you're not. So you had this friend who, you know, like, what do you expect? He's gonna be what he sees. You know what I mean? Like the other day, I was proud about little Ruben. They were playing a game, and they had this, you know, this other team has this kid that is just, he plays up because he's so good, but this team was a little stressed out that we were, you know, getting good, so they brought him down to play with the kids. And it got to the point where this team was just shellacking us, man, like just giving it to us. And you could see the kids just breaking down, you know, some were falling and crying. And I was asking, who wants to cover this kid? Like, I need someone to make this kid's life a living hell. Who wants to do it? He's the smallest, you know, one of the youngest kids. And I look at him and I'm like, you want to do it? And he was like, yes, please. And, you know, he you know, the kid got past him on a thing. But there were some plays where he was right in the fight with them. And that made me proud as a dad. And I had to look back and say, you know what, man, like, if there's a win in life, it's that kid he doesn't fear anybody. Like, you know, he just doesn't fear anybody. And that's a good thing. And that's things that have been taught. And because I'm that person, I couldn't be that person if I didn't put myself out to reach higher goals or to take risk or to compete in tournaments. You know what I mean? Like, how could I be like, oh yeah, you should not be scared?
Yeah. But that's something that you discover in life, man. I've had this idea in my head for decades, right? This is how I saw life, but it's not, there's always somebody smarter that can put it together in word, and you're like, yeah, that's what I've been trying to say. So I'm reading this book by this amazing group of people. It's so fascinating. I'm actually going to do it like a book review, but it's from the guys that put out Jailhouse Strong. And one of them is a Paragon guy.
Yeah, I just read Grapple Strong.
Grapple Strong. Yeah, this guy's, it's from Jailhouse Strong, and it's like Mindset Strong or something like that. We're going to do a book review on because the world needs to know about this thing.
Yeah.
But they break it down very simple to two forms of mindset: the fixed mindset and the progressive, the growth mindset. The fixed mindset is the mindset of the person that says, this is who I am. This is it. This is who I am. These are my habits. These are my habits. These are my abilities, and that's it. People that have an insane amount of success are born with that success or are born with that talent. And then you have the people that are the growth mindset, where is I can accomplish everything whether I'm talented or not. It's the work ethic that goes behind this, you know. And the people that have that fixed mindset are limited by their lack of desire for practice. They always fall back on their already existing abilities. You know, we know a guy that is super talented, but he doesn't have the work ethic. And would this guy have the work ethic? He would be a world-renowned black belt, but he doesn't. He's kind of like, okay, this were my abilities growing up, and then that's it. This is as far as I'm gonna go. Whereas to me, the reason I've been able to do well in competition is I'm not athletic. I don't have a lot of talent, but I know what I'm trying to do, and it's going to take me 1,000 repetitions to get that. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm gonna make those 1,000 repetitions. I'm gonna be the first one on the mat. I'm gonna be the last one off the mat. When nobody else wants to roll, I'll be rolling. When everybody else is tired, I'm not tired. Of course I'm tired, but my work ethic, my desire are that much more. I'm more hungry for success than for anything else.
Yeah.
So that difference is that growth mindset. And if you're reading the book, they talk about the qualities. Should you choose, because everything is choice, people. Everything is choice. You have a fixed mindset. You want to switch it over to a progressive or a growth mindset, you have to embrace these things. You have to embrace challenge. I'll cover him. You have to embrace failure. Damn it, he got a catch on me. Never again. I'm going to adjust what I'm doing. You have to embrace adjustment. You have to embrace critics. You have to embrace all those things. That's part of growing. And the people that have that fixed mindset is they don't do all those things. You know,
Yeah.
they're those are the high school peakers, right? They peak in high school. I was a quarterback in high school.
Yeah, the Uncle Rico mindset.
Right, the Uncle Rico mindset, man. You're like, because it's funny because I went to high school here in America, not knowing how to speak English, and there was a bunch of people around me that were phenomenal athletes, phenomenal this, phenomenal that. But there were those kids that drove the Camaro, that drove the this and the that peaked in high school, that were the high school quarterback and blah blah blah. And then I started late in life because I moved to America. Should have stayed in Mexico, it would have been a different story. But I started late in life because I had to learn the language, and I was a young immigrant. I had to work at KFC. I had to work at a factory.
Yeah.
You know, life slowed down for me because I became a teenage parent. But because I believed in that growth mindset, look where we are now. But through life, I started running to those people that are truly without envy. I truly admired. I would look at these guys and I was like, I became friends with them, and I would tell them, or I would think to myself, I'm like, dude, you're going to make it, and I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
You're going to be, dude, you're a phenomenal wrestler. You're going to go to college, man. I suck at wrestling, or I'm still trying to get better, or like for this one dude that was super smart, I was like, dude, you already speak English. Like that was the thing for me when I was like, dude, I can hold a conversation like for like 5 minutes, and it was, so I truly admire these people. But then those high school peakers, man, those Uncle Ricos, man, I started running into them in life. And I'm like, what happened? You were destined for greatness, man, But then you start talking to them, and that's the first thing they start bringing up. Remember when I was a quarterback in high school? Who gives a fuck about that, dude? What's happening now?
Yeah.
It's 2003, 2004. What are you doing now?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Do you want pina colada or vanilla as your car scent?
And it bummed me out, man. I was so fucking bummed out when
Yeah.
I started running to those people that just peaked, and then that was it. I wanted all those people to succeed, man. I wanted them to get better. I was never one to like be jealous of other people's success. It inspired me. I understood. I had a mindset of growth, and I understood that I had to work very hard, and I was always very happy when somebody else made it, you know. But there are those people that sit back and talk shit about the person you were, and don't celebrate the person that you are now.
Yep.
And we were talking about that and for you, both of you and I, man, it's puzzling what drives a person to be that, to not grow with that other person.
Yeah.
For example, George Roop, we were talking about this. George Roop, we just had him in the podcast. We're gonna post it here probably next week. And I love that dude. He's phenomenal. He does quietly a lot for the community.
Yeah.
And I saw a post from my buddy Gilbert up in Phoenix. He's a black belt under Nick Gregorius, but he had a post on his Facebook that said, "When you feed homeless, you feed the person and you feed your soul because it's a good act. When you feed the homeless and you post it on Facebook, you're not feeding the homeless. You're feeding your ego."
Yeah.
So with George is you wouldn't know 1/8 of the shit he does in the community, man. He's a great guy. He helps out a lot of young kids. He's a great example for people to follow because of where he started, where he is now. But I'll let him get into it in the next podcast. But one thing that he said is at the end of the podcast, he goes, a lot of people would tell you that I'm a piece of shit because the person that I was at 16, at 17, at 18, at 19, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But for people that are willing to say, okay, yeah, he might have been a piece of shit at the time. What about now? What is he doing now? Has he changed at the core? And the answer is, yeah, man. This dude is a phenomenal human being. And he has success. And there is somebody that looks at his success, at our success, and goes, dude, I went to high school with fucking George Ruby. He was a piece of shit. I went to high school with, man, he was this weird fucking kid. And truly what they're saying is, he doesn't deserve that. I'm mad because he doesn't deserve what he has.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. We went and made it happen.
Yeah.
we worked those hard hours, dude. We worked. I miss those birthdays. Starting with law enforcement. I miss those birthdays. I miss those first steps, those first words, those weekend parties. I miss those out of trying to make progress in my life. I miss those years in competition out of growing my career in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Same thing with you.
Yep.
Yeah. But the guy that is jealous about, or the guy that says, when he sees those guys up there, and then next thing you know is you hear that, dude, I know that guy. He was a POS. What he's saying is, why him and not me? Both of us were the same chapter in life at one point. Why does he have success and I don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I truly try to judge a person by the interaction I have with them. Because it's easy, like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. He was so-and-so. And people are quick to be like, well, I know, this person who's telling me that, quote-unquote, George Roop was so-and-so. But I haven't met George Roop yet, so I can't formulate that. But there are those people that have those weak characters, and they'll say, oh, yeah, so-and-so, and it becomes this big old, yeah, I know him, and I didn't actually know him. But there are those people where, I've been around it, whether it be in the fight game or whether it be at work, where they say something about someone, and then you meet them, and they're not that person. You know what I mean? They just don't have a full understanding of what that person is like. And I'm sure someone can, look at me and not know me, or if they didn't listen to this podcast, not know half of the things I've been through or half of the struggles I've come to in my life. And it's just my quote unquote resting bitch face, right? Like, I just kind of keep quiet, and once you get to know me, I'm joking around.
Resting bitch face?
Yeah, resting bitch face.
Do that real quick. What is that?
Fuck, I can't do that. You put me on the spot, man.
Is it that right there? Yeah, that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah, we were there. Oh, we would have been great friends when we were kids. Anyways, they just don't know, so they formulate an assumption, right? They say, "Oh, that dude's, he was from here at this one point, and now he's here. He thinks he's too good, right? He thinks he's better than us. I don't think I'm better than anyone that lives back on Palomas or Niagara Street in Menlo Park. I just decided to say, hey, I want different for myself because I hated this about myself when I was at that age, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes." And then that little guy came around, and I said, I don't want him to ever not have a home, and be living from house to house and move to 5 different schools and live in 9 different homes. And you know what I mean? Like, I want him to have a place where he grows up and it's his solid foundation rock. And I'm willing to eat whatever shit sandwich it takes. I'm willing to, run. Tell me how many miles I'll do it with a smile on my face. Tell me how much of a piece of shit I am, and I'll show you I'm not. Because that's what I want. Like, I just want a better life for him, and then hopefully that makes it easier for his kids when he gets to that age. Same with your boys. You know what I mean? They won't have to go through your struggles, and their boys won't have to go through their struggles. Just like whoever did what they did for us to be here. So it's character, man. It's character, and it's a want. I had this dude tell me one time. He said, you can make up for a lot of downfalls in your life if you just work hard, you shut up, and you hustle. You can overcome a lot of shit in your life. Work hard, shut your mouth, and hustle.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. So true, man. And that's just what I ended with that thought, man, is that regardless of what point you're in your life, it's that you can always improve your character with little things, with little habits, and you'll find inspiration. If you're looking for inspiration, you'll find inspiration everywhere around you, I'm a late night worker, meaning I had no problem staying up till, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning doing work, which is not a morning person. But I allowed work, but I allowed work the person at night.
Yeah.
That's just my thing, man. Like, I am amazed at Brenda, regardless of what happened that day. She is up at 4:40 in the morning. She is up at 4:40 in the morning. Which brings me to my next point. You fucking guys in the 6 a.m. class, don't be late to 6 a.m. class.
Because he has to hear that shit when he gets home.
Well, it's if I've come to the 6 a.m. class. I show you the respect as an instructor to be here at 5:50, 5:45. You showed me the respect to be here at the same time. I don't want to hear I overslept because not once has Damio been open late.
Yeah.
Not once. We're on time or we're early.
Yeah.
Period. Show the respect as a student to wake your ass up on time. But
6 a.m. shots fired.
yeah, 6 a.m. You fucking momos.
You fucked it.
Yeah, you fucked it, guys. But like same thing with like Gabe Cordova. You know, like that dude is like we worked out with him this morning and he put us through the workout and then with some positional drills. I know for a fact that dude woke up at 4:30 in the morning. Every day. Mm-hmm. Every day he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. And he drinks his little Rockstars. Every time I see him, I bring him a Rockstar because I know that's his favorite drink, and it's mine too. You know,
Yeah.
I actually like the flavor. It's not so much the energy. I like the flavor, but that dude is a grinder, and that dude inspires me. Brenda inspires me.
And it's not easy to wake up because when I covered that week, it's not easy to do that continuously. On top of, don't get it twisted, it's not just a 6 a.m. Then it's the 10.
Then it's at 12.
Then it's the 12 fundamentals. Then it's the tiny warriors, and them's is the shepherds. Like they run you through the ringer. So then you teach them, and then it's the whatever you want to do on your own, right? So then she has the women's class, and then she wants to roll with some of the guys and work on her technique.
Yeah.
And now she's getting home at 8:00 and she's cooking dinner.
Damn right.
And
Just a joke. Just kidding. Just kidding.
No, you know, while she's eating for herself, if whatever, she has to
Right.
make her food or you make the food for her. She still has to eat. She has to shower. She has to wash all the geese y'all smelly mofos go through. And then she wakes up in the morning.
Because you wash your gi every day.
You nest every day.
Don't leave it in the car. Your gi doesn't show up with a stain on it.
Or smell like cat pee. We should have a whole podcast.
On fucking gym etiquette?
Yes. Because what if people don't know? What if they just... It is you. What if they just don't know, you know? And this is our opportunity.
Dude, I have a buddy. I have a buddy.
Educate.
I have a buddy. His name is Angel. You know Angel, right?
No.
Yeah, we used to train together. He showed up a couple of times.
Did he show up and help us put up a wall or something?
Maybe.
Okay.
But this dude works construction. Handman stuff. This dude is so capable that he could build the house from the ground up. That's a lot of skill.
But not us.
Now, we talked about this, dude.
Yes. God blessed us with no man skills.
We
aside
do the
from
3
fighting.
Fs. We don't need to but
No,
we're really good at 3 Fs.
Yes. Yes.
Figure it out, the 3
Yes,
Fs.
3
If you guys can figure out the 3 Fs, I'll give you a free private. Ooh. You're out. You can't. You're not part of it. I tell you what the 3 Fs were.
close.
We're so good at those.
Yes.
But there's people that have all those skills. But this dude, he did some stuff on my house, and I was like, I'll help you. And like 4 hours into it, this dude is working and singing and working his ass off. I was like, are you hungry? And he's like, no. And just worked nonstop, dude, and singing and dancing, you know. And we had practice that night, so we stopped working. He went home. Don't get it twisted. I was like, well, I'm paying you to do this, so I'm gonna go inside of you. I fucking hate, dude. I was like, how is he doing? I don't know. But he showed up that night, dude, and that dude smelled like he was going to the dance that night at the TCC. He smelled pretty. His gi smelled pretty. He as a person smelled pretty. Get your shit together, people. You should not smell like cat piss.
So just for clarification, you're not demeaning him for smelling pretty. You're commending him.
I am.
You're saying, hey, good job. You smelled.
Be like him.
You smelled like a dog's butthole
Hashtag
working outside.
Be like Angel.
Okay, check.
Or Angel for you guys. Yeah. Hashtag
Translation.
Be like Angel.
Okay,
Yeah. All right. We have nothing else to say, man.
that's it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. Salud.
ESL. Salud.
Salud.
Bro.
There you
I know
go.
that.
Keep it real. Shut it off.
We're done.